Last year, a guy named Brandon Jenkins decided to apply for a therapy program at the Community College of Baltimore County. Now, this was a very competitive program, and ultimately he got rejected. He didn't make it. Now, this was a very competitive program, so much so that he even had to do an interview in person. And ultimately, he got a rejection letter from the school. Now, you would think it would end there, but he's actually suing the school on account of religious discrimination. He says they didn't accept him into their program because he's a Christian. And let's kind of go through what his lawsuit says so we get an idea of whether this was because of his faith or because he was just a bad candidate. There are a few reasons that Jenkins wasn't actually a great candidate to be in this program in the first place. His GPA was 3.2. It's not horrible, but when you're in a competitive program, it's not exactly the top of the line GPA. He also made it clear that after he graduated, he really preferred staying in Maryland, where jobs for the type of radiation therapy he wanted to do were pretty scarce. So the school said, you should actually consider applying elsewhere, but he preferred to stay in Maryland. And finally, about 10 years before he applied, he actually did something wrong. He has a criminal record. And so the school said, we're not going to let that affect you. But maybe who knows? Maybe it did affect their ultimate decision. The lawsuit that he's filing kind of hinges on one point. At one point, there was a panel of interviewers, and they asked him, what's the most important thing to you? And he said, my God. And they were like, next question. And then they didn't accept him. So Brandon seems to think that because he said, my God, that's the reason that they rejected him. Because no other Christian applied to the program? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other Christians in Maryland who were applying to the program. But here's what's kind of hidden deep into the lawsuit. At one point, the panel of interviewers asked him, why do you want to go into radiation therapy? And his response was essentially, well, because God told me to do it. And it has nothing to do with God. But I would imagine if you're the interviewer here, the response you're hoping to get is, this means a lot to me personally. I want to do this because I've been wanting to do it for a long time. The wrong answer would be, because my parents told me to apply to your school. Like, no one wants to hear that. And to say that God told me to apply is basically that same response. Someone else told me to do it. I don't actually care about it, but someone else wants me to do it. So in their rejection letter to Brandon, when you hear all that, I don't think they rejected him because he was a Christian. I think they rejected him because it doesn't seem like he really wanted to do this, and his qualifications weren't up to par with everyone else in the program. But again, this will be for a judge to decide, so take what I'm saying at face value. Now, here's where it gets a little messy. In their rejection letter to Brandon, the program director, trying to be helpful at one point, told him, in any future interviews you take, you should probably not mention, your religious beliefs because they're kind of irrelevant to the program, which is absolutely true. I mean, I don't talk about my atheism or my activism when I'm at a job interview. In fact, I try to suppress it. I know when I applied for the job I have now, I didn't mention any of that stuff. But I will tell you that, a long time ago, I applied to a job, and I remember on my resume, it listed my age. I don't know why it was on there. I think it was just off the template I was using. And I thought, hey, I'm a young guy and I'm applying for a job. Maybe that'll make me look good. And actually, the interviewer said to me, we're going to give you this job, but in the future, you shouldn't put your age on there. People may discriminate against you because of your age. And it was just good advice. And that's what I get. That's what I sense the program director in Brandon's case was telling him. Don't mention your religion because you never know who you might come across. And, we're not rejecting you because of your religion, but other people might. It's irrelevant to the program. Don't mention it. I think she had a good point, but I think he's reading too much into that and saying, well, they didn't like me because of my faith. Again, to me, that's a ridiculous claim, even having read through the entire lawsuit. It seems like he's just upset that he didn't get into the program because he wasn't a good enough candidate. But we'll see what a judge decides. If the judge sides on his behalf, that's going to be a big problem because now anyone, when they go into any interview, I think it would open the door for them saying, yeah, I want to be a doctor. I want to be accepted into your medical school because I really want to help people because Jesus told me to. And the moment they don't get accepted, they're going to start complaining that that's the reason they didn't get accepted. I hope he doesn't win this case because I don't think he deserves to. I think he just wasn't as good of a candidate as the other people who applied to the program. But we'll see how that turns out when this actually goes in front of a judge. My name is Hemant Mehta, and I write at friendlyatheist.com. Leave a comment below, and we'll be sure to check it out.